Hi everyone, welcome to my video for the first day one of the 2015 Cheltenham Festival. As I'm doing this, we're now only 3 days away. Just reading or watching the videos from last year, still can't believe 12 seconds amongst everything else, but fingers crossed we do a bit better this year. So let's start off where we usually do, with the Supreme Novice. Been going through the form of this, and I have a feeling this Supreme Novice won't take as much winning as previous years. So as a result, you can look to the top of the market, and rightfully so. There is the Willie Mullins trained Duvon, who he's just recently described as, and I quote, a machine. He's done absolutely nothing wrong on the track. He's winning with ease. Mullins reckons on a better ground he'll be even better again, given how he travels. And bear in mind, he won it last year, and he thinks this horse is right up there, if not better than what he had in a week a year. You've got to look no further than Duvon, really. Second favourite, rightfully so, is NOVICE for Nicky Henderson. The one concern I have about this is all of his winning has been on soft and heavy ground. He reckons it'll go better on good ground, and you would say in recent years, with the likes of Vaniter and also Joss's Hill going quite close in this race, you'd have to say NOVICE must run a big race, and there has been interesting money for him, 5-1 into 130 in recent days. After that, it's a bit of a free-for-all early, but the next one I'm going to look at is the Harry Fry Jolly Allen, because this horse came second to a horse called Sempre Medici the last time he ran, but that Sempre Medici has since come out and been stuffed by another runner that Willie Mullins has in here called Nichols Canyon. Now, Ruby Walsh was asked in a recent forum, you know, do you think you've made the wrong choice on Duvon? And he wasn't even like, somebody was like, oh, I don't know, this, that and the other. It was, no, I haven't. So he clearly knows the form. So you'd think Nichols Canyon's got the beating of Jolly Allen there, but with Ruby so keen on Duvon, it will be a big shot in the dark to think Jolly Allen's going to do it. Kiwi is an interesting one. He's been very classy. Threw the race away on his first run, but then next time out easily beat a horse called Carden Walter, who's come out since then and won with ease. So the form's been franked. Whether it's of this class and whether he's going to find enough, because he's relatively inexperienced for a race like this, is another thing. Sizing John, coming over from Ireland, has got some good form, done nothing wrong, but everything's been on heavy ground. So once again, it's a huge stab in the dark to think, oh, good ground will be exactly the same. An interesting one at 25-1 is Seedling here for Warren Greattricks. He's won over course and distance, not at the same time, but the one feature of it was the way he was under pressure but just kept on staying and finding up the hill, which is a big part of this race. The question is, does he have the class about it? Probably not, but you can see him running a big race. And Shane's Hill's another one that you've got to mention, which is for Willie Mullins. Though all season people have been saying, including the odd, he needs further, needs further, needs further. Yeah, he's here for the Supreme. He should be staying on, but once again, I just don't think he'll have what it takes at the end. It's a cracking start to the festival, and I'm going for Duvon from NOVICE, and I'm happy to add, you know what, Seedling, 25-1. Something big's going to get placed, so we'll look at there. The Arkle is all around one horse at the moment, which is again Willie Mullins trained, and it's called Umdasu. Fell on his chase debut, but has then routed everything last time. His style of running is very much like an old favourite of mine called Grey Abbey. You point him and you let him go, and that's it. Once he does that, then you know the rest is in the lap of the gods. His fall on his debut was an interesting fall because it was so far after the fence, and I've watched it again, and it was weird. He kind of like got his feet out, but then couldn't get the landing gear out, and well after the fence he got rid of Ruby Walsh. The course would worry me. The going is no problem. I know he's won on soft, but look, given his action, I don't think it's a problem. His form is good, but the one thing that would worry me is the course, because it's a lot of up and down hills at Cheltenham, and if you can't get that landing gear out, especially I think it's 3 out that downhill fence, you're going to come down. My play I'm doing here is Vibrato Voltap for Paul Nicholls. Always been a tricky customer in that deep, but then again, I didn't give him the credit he deserves. They've always played him very, very late in the day. And he even did it on his chase debut this year behind Dunraven Storm, when he jumped the last and he was on the bridle, and he just let him go too late and didn't win. Since then, he let him go earlier at Warwick, won easily, same again at Kempton, and last time at Warwick he was even better again. He travels so well, and Paul Nicholls even said, you know, he doesn't have to be held up at the back, he can travel up the pace. Now, with Paddy Power offering a free bet on all win parts, including each way bets, if Undersoo wins the Arkle. My bet I'm doing here is Roberto Valtat, because if he wins, great, and if Undersoo wins, at least it should be a free bet to nothing if he jumps around for Roberto Valtat, so at least you could end up with a free bet out of it. Clarkham finished miles behind Undersoo last time, but has beaten his stable mates for the Tour. Shouldn't be trouble in the judge, but is always an option for a place. Justice Hill has always promised to be a good chaser, but his jumping will need to have improved tenfold from all of his runs. Even when he won all of his runs, it'll have to have improved. But Barry Geraghty seems quite sweet on it. But the two I'm looking at on each way here is Court Minstrel. He's a course and distance winner. He had some really good hurdle form last year, and he's got some decent course form. Goes well on good ground, could run a big race. And in particular, Dunraven Storm, who beat Roberto Valtat, he came up 3 times early this season and run well every time. He's been off the track for like 80 days, I think, since then. So but his best run was when he was fresh. So I think they've been targeting this race and keeping him fresh. So I think he could reward that with an each-way run. In terms of a 1, 2, 3, though, I still think Undersoo, despite their prohibitive 4 to 9, which is short for a novice, to win. Roberto Valtat second, Dunraven Storm third. Just a bit of time on the 3 mile 1 handicap next, because once again multiple entries. The horse I like here is called the Druid's Nephew. Earlier this season, over course and distance, he finished just behind Sam Winner. Now Sam Winner since then has come out, won twice, including the listed at Aintree, got placed in the Lexus, and Paul Nicholls reckons he's an outside chance for the Gold Cup. So it's hard to tie the two forms in together, but Druid's Nephew and a 3 mile 1 handicap on a decent mark. Barry Geraghty on board as well, which is a really big coup, if that's what the Racing Post is saying is right. He could run a great race. Another interesting one is Mendip Express. All of his chase form has been good, and he's even a course and distance winner. He got beaten at odds on at over hurdles last time, but do you know what? He was never the best hurdler, so I'm not overly shocked by that. And I think the reason he did it was to protect his mark for this and possibly the Grand National later on in the year. But again, decent mark, got a claim on it who always rides it. He could run a big race. The anti-post favourite is at the moment, I believe, Ned Stark, and he was a great winner last time. He's on a really nice mark, but with his best form seeming to be on soft, there is that air of caution. However, the big uphill finish here should bring his stamina into play. Same with Monbeg Dude, always runs well around Cheltenham. You're guaranteed more or less to get a run for your money. Should get a strong pace to aim at, but he's getting no younger. While Shut the Front Door, his main target is the Grand National, though, as you've seen with John Joe O'Neill, he has used the festival and had horses run well here and then go on to the Gold Cup. Look, it's synchronised, ill-fated of course, but won the Gold Cup and then went on to the Grand National. So I'm not saying Shut the Front Doors in that level, and he's got enough weight, but he could run a good race. Anacotti is a horse I really like, and he's got good form around the course, but once again I think he just wants a bit shorter. Obviously not knowing if they're all going to run, the 1, 2, 3 I'm happy to put up here are Druid's Nephew from Mendip Express and Ned Stark. Next up we've got the Champion Hurdle, and there's only 8 in it this year, but it doesn't stop it from being any less quality. Obviously the favourite, and has been since, well, the first day pretty much of after the festival last year, is Faugheen for Willie Mullins, and he's done absolutely nothing wrong and was breathtaking at Ascot and ran really well every time this season. The question is, what's he actually beaten this year? And the answer is not a lot by the sounds of it, but then again you can only beat what's in front of you. Exactly the same comment will come in for the new one. The only reason I'm going for the new one here is 2 things. 1, the going, and 2, the new one's actually been turned out at the course this year. Last time I was okay, he wasn't a great winner at 1 to 7 at Haydock, but the ground was bottomless, and I mean bottomless. The meeting practically shouldn't have been on, so I'm not worried about that. Other than that, he's just done it very, very easily. The reason I'm going for the new one over Faugheen, it could prove to be ill-fated. Faugheen's going to go off in the lead, or try and be up there, that's guaranteed, because he's won over 2.5 more naturally than, say, the new one has. But the new one on good ground, I think he could have a turn of foot, and the new one doesn't have to be ridden at the back. He can be ridden up there because he has that one devastating turn of foot. This will turn into who jumps the best around there. If he can get into a rhythm on the front and just grind it out, it's going to be hard for everyone. But if the new one can keep tabs and put jumping pressure on Faugheen, I think turning in he could have that killer turn of foot at the end. And at places are showing 7 to 2 on the new one. It's almost, if it gets to 4 to 1, which it might do, someone might be brave enough to do it, it's almost an each way bet to nothing. And for the third one, the other thing to point out, it's just come in the last hour. Ruby Walsh is riding Faheen, not Hurricane Fly, which is it's a big indication, that, to be honest with you, that Faheen, they really mean business with it. Hurricane Fly, might as well move on to him, has done nothing wrong, won every time at Leopardstown this season, and he looks in better form this year than he was last year when he was only just out the places, but he's getting no younger. Ideally he wants softer ground, and even Willie Mullins is like, the word soft and must appear in it, and the water in it, so that could just finish Hurricane off this year. Jeski's obviously the reigning champion hurdler, and been put in his place by Hurricane Fly every time, but he seems to be coming to hand. There has been a few cases of jumping problems though within this season, which he didn't really have last year, so that's a nagging worry I have. And I just think this year as well, would he have beaten the new one if the new one wasn't nearly brought to a standstill by the ill-fated Arkle? No, I don't think he would have, and it'll take a bold one to say that, and the new one at least wouldn't have finished alongside him, to be honest with you, because he was literally brought to nothing and lost 15-20 lengths, he only got beaten 5 or 6. Vanita is good for Nicky Henderson, but every time he's been beaten this season, and it's a big leap of faith to think he's suddenly going to go and win it. The other one, Kitten Rock, is a good horse in his own right, but again, it's got a lot to find here. And Arctic Fire has been making hay behind Jeski and Hurricane Fly all winter. The good ground might actually suit him, and he could run a good race, but again, if you're finishing behind him there where their main targets are coming up, it's a leap of faith to say that he's suddenly gonna go and turn the form around there. It's going to be a cracking champion hurdle, but my 1, 2, 3 I'm going for is the new one from Faheen and Hurricane Fly. Mer's hurdle's interesting. Quevega's obviously been the queen of Cheltenham the last 6 years, winning every single time, going there fresh, and the Mullins Yard are trying to do it with Annie Power, but this is more by necessity rather than by choice like that with Quevega. Annie Power has obviously missed a piece of work because she apparently almost had a stress fracture, which caused and then they decided to go here fresh. Interestingly enough, they said, we're not going to the World Hurdle because she gets very buzzy in her races, and that's why she didn't stay last time. At the prohibitive odds she is, the step back in trip is fine, but it's a first run in a hell of a long time, and you can count back the decades other than Quevega that any horse went to Cheltenham fresh and not win. So I think, and win, sorry. So yeah, Annie Power should win. She's the class horse, but it's risky. It's the riskiest odds on the week, I think, personally. The horse I like is still from the same yard, and it's Glenn's Melody. Only run down in the last 50 yards by Quevega last year. It was a mistake. I've watched the form again, 3 outs. Watch the video, you can get it on YouTube. She absolutely rooted 3 outs, landed on all fours, regained the momentum, but then she just found nothing in the last 50 yards, obviously, as Quevega swept past. This year she's been in equally if not better form. She's followed a similar route of going to the OLBG Mers race at Warwick and winning it easily again. She loves it around Cheltenham, the better ground is fine, and she's a free bet to nothing at around 5 to 1. The other 3 to mention are all linked in on form here. I like the Pirates Queen by Alan King. Always going to be better on better ground, suggests a breeding, and she's actually beat Bit of a Puzzle, who's reopposing here, so I still think, bear in mind, I think these conditions will suit her more than Bit of a Puzzle. I still think he's got the beating of her, but since then Bit of a Puzzle's come out and beat Carol's Spirit after that, so on a line through those 3 I think Pirates Queen's got the beating of those 2. It's going to be a fascinating race, but 1, 2, 3 is Glenn's Melody from Annie Power and the Pirates Queen. The 4 mile race is very interesting because my nap of the whole day was going to be Don Poley for Jigginstown Stud, and now I found out today that he's going for the RSA. That's part of the problem you get with the festival, isn't it, when they're multiple entered. So the horse I'm jumping across to here is called Sago Success for Alan King. He's been doing it really well over 3 mile, 3 mile 1. Just looks like, going up there, looking like he's going to get pulled or get caught and just being driven out the last part. He's threatening to stay longer, and from a long time out, Sam Whaley-Cohen has been booked by the King Yard, which suggests that they mean business, as Sam's obviously considered one of the best amateurs around, and this race is for amateurs. Vivaldi Colonge is interesting for the Nichols Yard because he's been running over hurdles and just getting done at the end of races over 3 mile. He just has no turn of foot, he's a plodder. So it was not surprised that they switched him to chasing, and even then he's looked out of his depth against King's Palace over 3 mile, which is not too bad. The step up to 4 seems sensible, but I kind of had this feeling that it's more of an after plan from what they had sorted for this season. Jigginsdown is still represented by 2, Very Wood and Wounded Warrior, and the one I prefer here is actually Wounded Warrior, purely because the substantial improvements. His jumping hasn't been good enough. He's been staying on well, but never threatening over 2.5 miles, I should say. As soon as he went to over 3, his jumping was impeccable. He travelled well and got everything you need, and I think everything suggests that the extra distance is ideal for him. Very Wood won at the festival last year, and will run a decent race. I think he'll stay. Bear in mind, when you've got a horse that's won over 3 mile, the obvious one for them would have been to send Very Wood to the RSA, given it's the same trip pretty much. But no, they were happy to stick with this one there. So that would suggest that he's in line to run a good race. I think those two will run well, but I'm happy to nail McCullers to Sago Success. 1, 2, 3 here, Sago Success, Wounded Warrior and Very Wood. The closing race is the 2.5 mile handicap chase, and the horse I actually like here is Stellar Notion at 20 to 1. Started the season really well and then run a really good race, won on Boxing Day at Kempton, beating the favourite here, Generous Ransom. Now the reason Generous Ransom is favourite, next time out at Cheltenham over 2.5 mile on completely different going, very soft ground, Generous Ransom beats Stellar Notion. Stellar Notion though was still travelling really well when he made a massive mistake 3 out, rallied and then just tired, but all of his best form, if you look back to his career, is on good ground, and I think that's what we're going to get on day 1 here. Generous Ransom goes okay on good ground, like he was staying on behind Stellar Notion, and I think that could be the case again here. But he did show a really nice liking for the form, so you can't not like one and not the other here. Though Generous Ransom's around 8 to 1, while Stellar Notion's around 20 to 1. So Stellar Notion on the go, and I actually think is the better bet. But Generous Ransom should run a good race. Knockhouse has been talking about a lot, but the one thing about this is he's run twice at the course and has been awful on both times. I also found a quote today where the jockey said, "Oh, he didn't like the course. He kept changing his legs, but they're going back for more. So good luck to them." Golden Hoop for Nicky Henderson's interesting, very consistent, without being world class over fences, but that can help in handicap because you can be on a decent mark if it all comes together. Clearly needs good ground. They've kept him for this. He could run a good race for you there, but I think he could probably still find something at the top of the market ahead of him. The very interesting one here is Keltus for Paul Nicholls. Came very close in the Fred Winter last time, staying on from absolutely miles back to get beaten only a few lengths by Hawkeye. On decent ground, which is what he needs. The extra half a mile here is fine, and he's been a bit indifferent but generally good over fences. He's been bumping into some decent horses. As a result though, he's on a decent mark. The ground is fine, and the biggest one to this is he always goes well fresh. It seems to be how they do it. They've kept him fresh for this. Sam Tristan Davis has already come out in the preview evenings this week and said that's who I'm going for in the race, so he's played his hand early, which suggests that they must think a good run's coming. Obviously a lot of these are multiple entered, but it's a hard one, but I'm happy to go with Stellar Notion from Keltus and Generous Ransom in here. Well, I hope this was useful. Obviously if you've got any fancies yourself, please post it. It's always good to know what other people are doing, and I will be back with day 2 shortly. Thanks for watching, see you soon.